All right, so at the end of that last video, I know it got a little confusing and I apologize for that, but sometimes that's part of what drives people crazy about JavaScript is null is a primitive value, but when we look at its type of, it's an object. So of course I started searching around about what this is, and this is actually one of, they talk about the gotchas of JavaScript, and that's why, because it just kind of doesn't make sense, but it is, and this is what you'll, and that's what I ended up saying, right, is that what you'll notice, what you'll find in JavaScript as you move forward is that you have your primitives, but almost everything else is an object, but even the primitives themselves, once we call methods, become objects. So the joke in JavaScript is everything's an object. Okay, so in this last video for here, I want to talk about strings a little more because there's something we can do when we're outputting strings, but also it helps us kind of drill down, because you're going to see when you look at code, you're going to see it handled the two ways I'm going to show, but also as we move forward, then you'll learn how to update the page with content as well. But this is just kind of something fundamental you want to have. So we're still working in week 3. I'm here at the bottom of that file. I just put my pet cat string, my pet name monkey, my pet age 2. So if I wanted to create a sentence, right, if I wanted to just do and again I could use double quotes here, and I'm just going to hit escape so we can see this. If I wanted to say I have a what, now in this case I'm going to say I have a cat, right? So what I have to do here is use the plus as a concatenation. So we're going to concatenate, we're going to put together, mush together this all into one string itself, or one output string. So I have a pat, and in this case I just type cat, right? And then plus, right? I have a cat, her name is, right? Now I do my pet name, right? I love that when that works well, right? Right? And now at this point, I'd have to do another plus, okay? So this is kind of the harder way of doing things, but that's okay, because sometimes, and I know it's frustrating, but sometimes you have to learn the harder way to appreciate the more effective way of doing things. So her name is, oh, sorry, it's not age. Should be her pet name. And she is, okay, plus. So what I'm doing is combining variables together with the strings, even though those variables are strings. And now in this case, I'd go my pet age. And then I do add years old. Okay. So what I've done here, let me do my, let's see, make sure, oh, forgot the print. Okay, so by the way, let me show you that, because that could be something you run into. When you're coding, and I don't think this is specific to Prettier, but in case it isn't, I get the, you see red here. What will happen is it's trying to help you understand that there's an error in your code. By the way, I could also format this so what we call wraps, so we would see it on multiple lines. Sometimes that's really helpful as well. I'm just going to for a minute. All right, so if I minimize my screen font, you would see it there a little better. So when you see stuff like this, if you go over to, if you miss it and you come here, then you will also see an error in here, and it'll specifically point you to where it's at. And this is a better one than we saw before, where it actually showed you, but this is not, you know, it is saying we're missing. So when you open the parentheses, you have to close it, and you want to close that before the end of line. Okay. All right, so now let's actually go look at it. Oh, cat is not defined. Oh, right. Yeah, another error. Okay. My pet. Okay. I have a cat, Carther. And why would that be? Because in this case, when we're using strings like this, if we don't actually space it like that, right? And I have the same problem here. And this is why doing it this way, although you will see it done this way many a times, and then here, because anytime you'd want a space, right, you actually have to put it inside of the string. So the other way we can do this is something called string template strings. So if I did console.log, again, open and closing this time, right? Instead of the single or double quotes, I do the backticks. And backticks are great because what it's going to say is it's going to allow me to place the string value and whatever's in the variable value in one line without having to think about this. So I could say I have a, and what I can do here is $ open parentheses, close parentheses, my pet. Okay. And again, I don't have to do these pluses because it's going to, based on the way template strings work, it will know how to format this correctly. Her name is, again, but the key is I have to do this backticks and I have to do the open and close parentheses. My pet name, right? And she is, oh, okay, my pet age. And then I would say years old, period. First you can see, and by the way, semicolon, okay? So first you can see it does seem a little more readable, okay? To me it's a little more clean. You might not think that, depends on how much code you've looked at in your life, honestly. It is shorter, and we often say shorter is better, but this just looks to me a little clunky. So from here on out, and this is really what I want you to walk away with on this particular video, is like we are going to use template strings when we're outputting things, whether that be to the console or whether that be to the actual, you know, page itself. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and do that. Since we have that H1, right, let's go over here and do the H1, right? Now that we have it, we're pointing to it. Now we can say, right, do you remember this? My heading dot text content equal to. Now this is where, and this is a good place to end this, because we console logged these out. We actually didn't save this string. So one of the things we could do here is we could say const output string equal, okay, and I can, in this case, because I'm not doing the console log, I can just take, now I can leave the parentheses as well, it's not a big deal, but now I can say output string, okay, and now let's see, let me make sure I have it all, H1, is this in the right H3, yep, it's there. So now this is where you get to do a little bit of troubleshooting. My heading, let's see, what is the error? What is the error? What doesn't it like? Put string. Well, that won't make a difference, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. My heading, H1. Okay. This is a good one. This is a good troubleshooting one. Anybody see it? If you saw the error, if you saw this error and was able to figure out, it's okay if you weren't, okay, what the issue was. Why was I getting this, right? Why was I getting this when I seemed to have everything set up correctly? I had my H1, I was saying pointing to it, storing it in a variable, then setting its text content. The last thing I did was this part, which was, by the way, fine, but I was getting an error. And part of programming is learning how to troubleshoot, how to find errors. And often, this is why you need to go get help, because if you stare at this long enough, it'll drive you kind of crazy, like, what did I do wrong? Right? So if you know what the error is, right, put the error is, right? And if you don't know, say you don't know. It's okay. So here's the error. Is when I set up this, I forgot defer. And missing defer because I have my script tag up in the head section, right? I could, this is what we talked about before, have it lower, but if I miss the defer, then it actually will break it, because what it will do is try to reference something that doesn't exist based on where the script is loading. Always good examples to look at. You can never talk too much about debugging your code. It's just something that the more you do, the better you get at it. Even looking at DevTools, it wasn't clear to me. I actually had to pull over and look at the index file to figure out I had forgotten the defer. So this is just a part of learning how to read code. Okay, so that's it for this one. The commit here, I'll go ahead and do it. Let's just talk about, right? So the commit message on this one, and then remember, I'll give you a commit message. You've seen this before, and this will be template strings. Okay, and now you can submit your history, your commit history URL. Hopefully you're getting used to this process to show completed this work. Okay. All right, that's it for this one. We'll move on, and I think the next one we're going to talk about is conditionals. I think that's my next topic.